scientists at Stanford published a new paper finding that the infectious fatality rate, that is the death rate for COVID-19, is much, much, much lower than previously thought. The enumeration of this actual infectious fatality rate is 0.03%. And what that means is that individuals under the age of 59, and this is important to understand that this data is collected before the vaccinations rolled out. So the pre-vaccination infectious fatality rate is 0.035%. What that means is that adults under the age of 59 have a 99.97% probability of surviving SARS-CoV-2. Now, this is important because, as we're going to talk about in this show, new analysis actually find that about 94.5% of American adults have some sort of cardiometabolic disease. That is, they are on the trajectory for developing heart disease, obesity-related complications like cancer, like dementia, like autoimmunity, and premature morbidity and mortality. So we have a large percentage of our population still thinks that if they contract this virus, that it's inarguable that you're going to get this virus, right? Everyone is going to get it, and most people have already contracted this. A lot of people still think they're going to die, right? Yet we have 94.5% of the population who is on the path of developing cardiometabolic disease, obesity, and the like. Yet we're subsidizing fast food. We have people giving their children Pop-Tarts and corn dogs and fish sticks and things like that are developing obesity in children. And we have this massive cardiometabolic disease epidemic, yet no one seems to care, but so many people are still focused on this pathogen. So we're going to break down a few different studies and talk a little bit more about where we should allocate our preventative health measures. Should we focus on the pathogen, avoiding the pathogen at all costs that statistically, as this new paper has actually enumerated, 99.97% of adults under the age of 59 will survive and won't die? Or should we start to focus on preventing the rampant cardiometabolic disease? A paper we're going to talk about today has found that only 3% of adult men have optimal cardiometabolic health. The number is a little bit higher in women, but if you look at the total population, this was a new study published in the year 2022, found that only 6.8% of American adults have optimal cardiometabolic health. So if you really want to follow the science, the evidence suggests that we should actually start to focus on exercise, on eating less ultra-processed, hyperpalatable foods. We should focus on prioritizing circadian rhythm optimization and stress management strategies and walking in the post-meal window so that we can curb the dramatic rise in most people in post-meal glucose. So that's a little hint at where we're going in today's show. I want to welcome you back. It's Mike Mutzel. As always, thanks for tuning in to High Intensity Health. If you're enjoying the content, please hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe and leave a comment below. So let's dive into this first study from scientists at Stanford. So the title of the paper that we're going to talk about today, and I'll share with you the death rate very soon. The title here is Age-Stratified Infectious Fatality Rate of COVID-19 in the Non-Elderly Population. Essentially, for people under the age of 59, the infectious fatality rate is 0.035%. And what that means in real world terms is if you're under the age of 59, there's a 99.97% chance that you will not die if you get infected with COVID-19. Now, this is really important because, again, so many people have uprooted their lives. They have stopped traveling to visit friends and family. They will not hang out with unvaccinated people. They're wearing masks when they walk their dog, right? But yet they're eating fast food and junk food. And that's why I really care about this, because I want to share with you some facts about the poor metabolic health. And actually, 93.4 or 93.5% of all American adults have some poor cardiometabolic health. So we really need to focus on shifting our allocating our energies towards preventing the things that are really causing morbidity and mortality. Morbidity meaning poor health, not feeling good, lethargy, and things like that. And mortality. People are much more likely to die from cardiometabolic disease than they are from COVID-19. And we have papers now, we have science to talk about this and share with this. And the trends in cardiometabolic health continue to decline. In fact, this recent paper that we talked about last year, titled Trends and Disparities in Cardiometabolic Health Among U.S. Adults Between the Years 1999 and 2018. What this found is that only 3% of American men have sufficient cardiometabolic health. And I'll share with you what the definitions here are, but essentially it's characterizations or sort of ascribing metabolic syndrome, the attributes there of visceral adiposity, of high elevated lipids, of dyslipidemia and dysglycemia. So most people, 97% of men have poor cardiometabolic health. So we really should be encouraging people to focus on that, not just wearing facial coverings and washing hands and having hand sanitizer glued to the backpack, right? So here is this is figure 2. Really important to recognize that for children, and this is right from Stanford scientists. Again, this is not the Journal of QAnon Conspiracy Theories. This is John Ioannidis and others at Stanford. And by the way, this is the death rate that they found, John Ioannidis and others, when they looked at the Diamond Princess ship and they looked at the death rate off the coast of California. And that was early on in the pandemic. That was March of 2020. So we should have been listening to these epidemiologists and scientists back then, instead of making these sweeping societal changes that have had numerous and lasting, and they will continue to have, iatrogenic harms, that is unintended harms, from economic harms that are directly linked to morbidity, mortality. When people lose their businesses and their income, guess what? They have health challenges as a result of that. You can't just lock people in their homes and just have the government pay them and shut down their business. That has health ramifications, mental health, and much more. But closing the schools and criticizing Sweden. Remember, the media just picked on Sweden over and over. Well, here's the actual death rate for children between the ages of 0 and 19. The actual infectious fatality rate for children is 0.001%. Okay, so what that means is 99.9999% of children who get COVID-19 will survive and will not die. Now, this is, I know this rubs some people the wrong way, because they still make their kids wear the mask in school, but they give them Fruit Loops for breakfast. I mean, I have a hard time. This logical inconsistency. I really spend a lot of time on helping people better understand the ways that they can actually prevent obesity and hypertension and cancer and cardiovascular disease, the diseases that statistically kill far more people than COVID. And statistically speaking, 94.5% of people who died from COVID had 4 or more of these conditions as on their death certificate. Okay, so you can make the argument, well, did they die with COVID or from COVID? And it's usually with COVID because they were so sick beforehand. And again, this is video number 100, I think, at this point, where we've really honed in on this. But because I see so many people still sanitizing the hands and wearing the mask, but drinking soda, I feel like it's important to talk about this. So let's continue on here. You might say, okay, Mike, so we know that kids are relatively unaffected by COVID, but I'm a 40-year-old person and I, maybe had made some poor health choices. So I'm high risk, right? Well, actually, if you look at the statistics, still here, the infectious fatality rate for people between the ages of 40 and 49 is still 0.1%. So what that means is you have a 99% probability that you're not going to die. Now, this is important, again, because the media has scared a lot of people over the years, and yet they get sponsors they get advertising revenue from, say, fast food companies. I don't know about you, if you ever watch a football game or a basketball game or any political debates, they'll cut to commercials and it's McDonald's, Carl's Jr. It's all, come on, where is the intensity about matching the effort about encouraging or preventing people from consuming these foods? So how can we take a network seriously that is scaring you and convincing people that they are going to die from COVID when we have the statistics to show that it's not possible, that it's very unlikely, yet they're also taking advertising revenue from these companies that are directly selling products that are harmful for your health, statistically speaking. And so I just want to read to you a few things, and we're going to get to the metabolic health aspect of it. Now, some of you might say, well, everyone's a little bit different. Every country's a little bit different. Here in the US, as you know, we didn't fare that well because we have such a high percentage of people who have cardiometabolic disease. So the infectious fatality rate varied between 0.15% up to 0.3%. But that still means that you have a 99% probability, if you're under the age of 59, from surviving COVID-19. Okay, so let's get to some of the direct quotes here. And again, this is from Stanford scientists. They say the infectious fatality rate had a median of 0.03%, 0.034%. So again, translating that into layman's terms, that means that 99.97% of people under the age of 59 who contracted COVID-19. Now, it's important. I should have mentioned this in the beginning, that this is pre-vaccination IFR. Okay. And since then, the IFR has actually dropped because some of the vulnerable people had additional protection, right? And so I think, again, a lot of people don't recognize this. There are still young people that have the illusion, the perception that if they contract this virus, that everyone is invariably going to contract at some point, right? That's just inarguable. Right? When we said that was a conspiracy theory or relegated as a conspiracy theory, it's inarguable. Everyone's going to get this no matter what. Okay, so the odds of you dying are significantly low. And so what that means is you need to allocate your willpower, your financial resources, your time and energy into preventing cardiometabolic disease. Because statistically, this is where people are vulnerable, and this is what is going to cause people to suffer health challenges and die prematurely. So the scientists conclude in this paper from Stanford, the current analysis suggests a much lower pre-vaccination IFR compared to what everyone speculated. Now, Peter Attia and many other practitioners had questioned, why aren't we looking at the true IFR early on? This was in March. This would have been easy to do early on. And for some reason, this question was never answered. So we know that most people are going to survive this. So where should you focus your health efforts? On exercise, on nutrition, on sleep, stress management, meaning and purpose, your relationships. And it seems that metabolic health is a good place to start. This was a study that many people in the health space like to cite. The title of this paper here is Prevalence of Optimal Metabolic Health in American Adults, National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey from 2009 to 2016. Essentially what this paper found is about 84% of American adults have poor cardiometabolic health. Now, as you can see, the citation here was in 2019. And so this follow-up paper is even more grim because this was published in the fall of 2022. And essentially what this paper found is that cardiometabolic health continues to slide in the negative direction. And you can see these trends. We did a whole video on this particular paper here. Figure 3, what you see is trends in adiposity, trends in blood glucose, trends in blood pressure are all going in the wrong direction. And essentially what this paper found is only 6.8% of American adults, okay, so these are people over the age of 18, have good cardiometabolic health, right? So this means that you have a 99.97% chance of surviving a virus, but yet only 6.8% of people have good cardiometabolic health. So where should you focus your intensity? Obviously on the cardiometabolic health, on the exercise, on nutrition, on intermittent fasting, on focusing on circadian rhythm optimization. This is where we should focus our efforts, my friends. And so, of course, we have tools through our sister company, Myoscience. One of the tools that I really like to encourage people to consider if they're new to fasting or have evening food cravings for cookies, treats, crackers, and pasta, things like that, high carb, hyper palatable foods, is the Berberine Fasting Accelerator. You can take 2 to 3 capsules around mealtime, either before your meal, during the meal, or slightly after. It just depends on personal preference, what you find to be most effective. But that is a great tool to help recreate these habits that are sustainable so that you're not snacking on foods that promote fat gain and promote elevated blood pressure and things like that. So it's really a great tool. I'll put links in the description below so you can check that out. But share this paper, friends. Share this video with folks to help them understand that there is a mismatch between where people are actually focusing their preventative health measures and what is actually the problem. The problem, as it turns out, is poor cardiometabolic health, as this analysis finds, particularly among men. Only 3% of men are metabolically healthy. That's insane. That means 97% of men have some aspect of cardiometabolic disease, and that's where we should be focusing our intensity. So I just want you to know that this paper exists. I want you to know that the media, they had lied to you. They had over-exaggerated the realistic health problems linked with COVID while simultaneously ignoring the actual imminent health problem, which is cardiometabolic disease. And so we need to encourage people to focus on that, to reallocate those preventative health measures to walking after meals, to compressing feeding windows, not eating sugary snacks and things like that before bedtime, doing resistance training 3 to 5 days per week. So as always, my friends, thanks for sharing this video. Thanks for liking this video. Thanks for leaving a comment. And if you're in iTunes, I very much appreciate you sharing this content as well. Hopefully you got some value. Let me know in the comments, and I will link these articles so that you can share these with your friends and family. We'll catch you on a future episode down the road. Bye now.